Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Warcraft News. It's been another incredible week. Thanks to the new team, we've almost managed to release 10 videos a week across both channels and progress on the complete history.
That's crazy. How many videos do I do per week? How many videos do I do per year? I think that's a better question. Probably like, what, 2? Yeah, 2 or 3. Maybe.
World of Warcraft is going incredibly.
Yeah.
We've got a great show for you today. We've got lore, we've got gameplay, future patches, and some classic stuff. And a massive thank you to everybody over on Patreon, where we're currently doing Druid Month. $25 shipping included. It supports our team. You'll get gorgeous art in return. And also, we are still hiring a video editor. Check out the job application in the link below. Okay, let's get into the narrative. So, Blizzard have released the 8.2.5 patch notes, indicating that it will release quite soon indeed. Now, as a part of this, they've confirmed something fairly interesting. Here's the quote. The war campaign concludes. Tensions continue to rise between Saurfang, Anduin, and the Banshee, Queen Sylvanas discover the fate of the Horde and Alliance in the final chapter of the war campaign.
Great.
Now, this is a decently important confirmation, one that's led many people to wonder if 8.2.5 will be the final patch of BFA. More on that aspect later.
It's not.
Narratively, though, there are a few implications here. So the most direct one is that the war will end, freeing us up for a linear end to the expansion, just like how the Class Order Hall campaigns ended before patch 7.3. Now, narratively, this means that the new status quo between the factions will be reached before 8.3. So what will that new status quo be? That's the big question here. We know that Blizzard have 2 encrypted cinematics, and Muffin has tweeted, the revolution will not be data mined, so they're clearly going to serious lengths to keep this covered up.
Thank fucking God. Finally, they're realizing the fact that whenever everything gets fucking data mined, it lowers the anticipation for the patch. It's like, imagine like if you go to the movie and it's like you go to Infinity War and they're like, Thanos, he's gonna do it, and they're like, okay. Like, I mean, it's gonna lower the anticipation. You want to go into it not knowing what's gonna happen. That's part of the excitement. It's part of the excitement.
Now, of course, we all expect that Sylvanas is going to attack Thunder Bluff. That just makes complete sense. So will we just see a climactic confrontation with no funny business, a simple clashing of forces with a clear victor emerging who establishes the new status quo? I really don't think so, because if they did that, it would just be the Siege of Orgrimmar story all over again, but without the raid. Of course they...
What, do you put that past them? Does Bellular really put that past them? Oh, they would never do that?
Won't do that. Sylvanas is, as we know, a 7-head, big-brain, galaxy-mind genius. She's the undead love child of Einstein and Machiavelli. So think about it, right?
Right, of course.
Both sides lost so many troops in Nazjatar. However, she lost loads of troops in basically her defeat at Zuldazar. A number of her forces have also declared themselves for the rebels, and we know that Lorthamar, Thalyssra, and a bunch of other Horde-related figures are pretty much pledged to the rebels at this stage. So, in losing the Tauren, Sylvanas has also lost what I'm sure is her bread basket. Maybe the undead don't need to eat that much, but I'm sure the orcs do, as well as a lot of raw manpower. So that begs the question, is she, with depleted resources, lost territory, a battered army, is she really going to assault a heavily defended and defensible enemy position?
Yeah, of course.
Probably not. Of
course she is. Like, what do you mean? Like, duh. Like, if she didn't do that, then you wouldn't have the raid. Like, since when has food been an issue in WoW? They don't give a fuck about that. Like, that's the only reason the orcs came over to Azeroth, because they ran out of food. But besides that, they never gave a shit about that kind of stuff. They never cared.
Of course, it is defended by much of, the people who used to be in the Horde and many of the Alliance. Clearly, no, that would be a silly plan, like, doing a cavalry action at night or placing your catapults outside your fortress. It would be really, really dumb. There's one thing that we know about Sylvanas and how she's been written thus far, is that she always does try to fight her battles asymmetrically, using the opponent's strengths against them, such as in Lordaeron, where she pretty much knew she was going to lose, so she committed herself to making the Alliance's victory a Pyrrhic one. You see, the Alliance are, when they think they have the advantage, remarkably stupid. That's basically how Blizzard tend to write them. So here's what I think will happen. The Alliance will commit much of their forces to Thunderbluff. I think Sylvanas will siege Thunderbluff and just use that to tie down their forces. I think she will then attempt to defeat her enemy in detail, because they will have lost maneuverability with so many of their boys stuck up in Thunderbluff. And with the body of their forces in Thunderbluff, well, there just won't be much that the Alliance will be able to do, to react to her. As defensible a location as it is, they would be trapped up there without supplies, all while the sieging Horde army could live off the land of Mulgore. So, knowing this, I think Sylvanas will do that and then attack Stormwind. Now, as I covered in the Shadowlands leak, which of course, maybe is fake, probably is fake.
Now, I don't know about you guys, but like if I ever go to Stormwind, there's a lot of guards there too. I mean, there's like a lot of guards at Stormwind. Like there's like a whole fucking army there. Like Stormwind, like what do you mean like, because Thunderbluff is unguarded? Like there's nobody at Thunderbluff. There's some old fucking shamans, a few cows, and like one guard that's like, better not come over here, I'll get you. I'll get you. There's nothing going on over at Thunderbluff at all.
And this had been set up, though, before BFA launched, in the Before the Storm novel, where it makes very clear that Sylvanas has her eyes on Stormwind. Plus, that massive goblin cannon that is literally pointed at Stormwind right now? Well, Blizzard said it would be fired during this expansion. Alex the WoW dev also said that looking back upon what Garrosh wrought upon the world, Sylvanas would think it rather quaint. So will patch 8.2.5 be her attempt to destroy Stormwind and raise its inhabitants? I mean, given that Before the Storm passage, which literally says she wants to do that to Stormwind, pretty much, it seems rather likely. So how could this end? What could actually happen? Well, I think that depends on what Blizzard mean when they say that this patch is going to show us the fate of the Alliance and the Horde. If that's it, then this patch would be establishing the new status quo moving forward, and if that's the case, I think it's abundantly clear that Sylvanas cannot prevail. Long term, I think they will want Saurfang, Bane, and Thrall's Rebellion to prevail and be the new Horde status quo. I think that will basically just work for players. So
that's gonna make everybody happy. The orcs and the Tauren, and like nobody likes the undead anyway. I mean, let's be real. Like really, nobody likes the undead. All right, they're just obnoxious and stupid, and they have no place in the Horde.
If that's to happen, then where will it leave Sylvanas and the Alliance? Well, I think Sylvanas will deal a massive blow to the Alliance. Perhaps she'll drive them to the brink, nearly destroying Storm, maybe raising it doesn't make any sense. Maybe Kalia could then be involved with that. I imagine that the Alliance will ultimately prevail, though, but that it will not be clean. I think Sylvanas will cash in her pact with Helgen. I mean, yes, that wasn't the Shadowlands League, but also, like, it is one of the hanging plot lines with Sylvanas, so it does make a lot of sense.
There's a million other hanging plot lines that don't go anywhere, though.
Will then be a non-factional line, sort of neutral character in the future. The Alliance, I think, will end the expansion being a bit fractured, or at least with the seeds of that planted. But
that's the way it should be, right? I think the Night Elves should go off and do their own fucking thing. If they're going to do this thing where, like, people can play in different factions, I wish there were sub-factions with, like, the Night Elves and the fucking Alliance. I don't like this whole idea where everybody's on the same side. Maybe I just played a little bit too much Warcraft 3, but that's the way that I look at it.
Have said that while the Horde has been split during BFA and the Alliance is united, that will change over time. So I think whatever way the Alliance wins, it's pretty clear that one of its constituent factions will lose. Now, if we're to believe that Shadowlands leak, then some of what I talked about here would actually be an 8.3 rate. If we discard that, then something similar could happen within the scope of 8.2.5, leading us into an 8.3, that if we're to take what Ian said, at face value about the 8.2 cinematic, that would just have us fighting Azeroth or something like that.
There's no way they're not going to have... It's obvious that they're going to fucking do... It's obvious they're going to do 8.3. Like, I cannot imagine Blizzard ending the expansion on 8.25. Like, if they do that, people are going to fucking riot. They're going to be so angry.
Then look, I know that this Shadowlands thing has totally, like, sowed a few seeds in our minds, but a part of me seeing that wonders, like, if Blizzard were to do the Shadowlands and the Dragon Isles, would that just be 8.3 and not an expansion? I mean, it certainly would be equal to the Argus of BFA. But anyway, what do you think about these plot lines? What do you think is going to happen?
I don't know about
that,
dude.
Going to contain?
Seems like a little bit
Let
much.
me know down below, and let's move on. Okay, so what's 8.2.5 actually going to bring us? Well, first, of course, we've got the war campaign. Now, we've got no idea how long this is going to be. It's not been on the PTR. It has not been data in mind. They really are keeping that under tight wraps. I imagine, though, it will be fairly chunky. At least I hope it's going to be, because the narrative is clearly going to be one of the main draws for this patch. Still, all that lore to cover. We've got 2 cinematics that have a combined runtime of over 9 minutes, so it's
disappointing that, like, the lore in the game is actually pretty good. It's just that it's really hard for anybody to appreciate it, because they never really, like, you're not forced into reading the lore. Like, if they want to make the lore better, they want to make people appreciate it more, take the quest helper trackers off of the fucking lore quests and just have players figure it out themselves. And that'll get them to read the quests. If they read the quests, then they'll be able to appreciate it and know it more. That's why there's a lot more of you guys that know why Van Cleef is, you know, maybe the good guy versus Sylvanas is maybe the good guy. That's the difference, is because you had to read the quests about Van Cleef and you don't give a fuck about Sylvanas because you don't have to read the quests about her. Questy? Well, yeah, I mean, of course, sometimes, you know, people are going to use Questy, but a lot of people don't.
To be pretty darn large. Next, though, we do have the Magni storyline continuing. Now, this involves Rathian, and it was shown off to testers on the PTR, so there'll really be no surprises there. Now, interestingly, the patch notes also do mention many new stories and adventures are now available across Azeroth. That's rather mysterious. I don't actually know what these new stories and adventures are, so it's possible we could be in for a launch day surprise, or that maybe things will unlock over time.
I really
actually
hope
imagine
so.
Blizzard
That'd be
might do
fucking
that.
badass.
They do like to eke their patches out. Now, this patch also adds in the Firelands time walking and the Honeyback Harvester Alliance mount.
Amazing.
Plus just the faction around that.
Wow.
And then on a time-limited basis, of course, the anniversary event. So you'll log in to find a Nefarian battle pet, an event-lasting experience and reputation boost that I presume will be 15%. A firework, and then a teleporter.
I'm probably going to try to level up some
of time
characters
for the
during
event.
this too.
Now,
That's gonna
in
be
the
great.
caverns, you'll find the new Memories of Azeroth raids. Now, even though you have to go, I mean, even though you do go to the caverns with that teleporter, those raids are LFR. So, I mean, I think they'll be neat to do once. You'll probably do them to get the new Obsidian World Break.
I'm disappointed about that. I wish they made the content a little bit more exciting and difficult, because right now, whenever it's just LFR content that you just go through and it's not a big deal, who the fuck cares about it? Like, I don't feel good about completing any of that content at all.
Mount, but I mean, I doubt they're really going to be reliving the experience because they are.
Yeah, it doesn't feel good to complete it. Like, who gives a shit?
Offered a more difficult pre-made version. Then on top of that, we've got the Alterac Valley event. So, and this aims to basically reintroduce the initial version of AV into the modern game. Now, if you'd like to learn more about that, then be sure to watch the 5th episode of our complete history of World of Warcraft series. This Saturday's episode is going to cover the original AV, and believe me, it's really cool. So, yeah, that'll be fun. And then we're also, of course, getting the Worgen and Goblin model updates. Next, though, we've also got Party Sync. So we've already done a full preview feature on, or preview video on this feature, but yeah, you can get the full details there. The core of it, though, is that if you party up with a low-level friend, you can just click the Party Sync button. The higher-level player will be scaled down to the max level bracket of the lower-level player. So if a lowbie is level 30, the max level player will be level 60. Of course, though, if a level 60 goes to Westfall and attacks Westfall mobs, they will scale so that you have a reasonable combat experience, and the level 60 character isn't just plowing through everything. We actually found that my max level bracket character was a little bit weaker than the lowbie it was helping in the Northrend bracket when we tested it. Anyway, the core of this is that you can level up with your friends, something that is aided by the quest.
You know what I think is going to be really fucking funny? Is whenever you're using this like party sync thing, and you're level 60, you're scaled down to 60, but you're actually 120 with like full mythic raid gear, and like a random level 70 comes around and kills your character, who's actually a level 120 mythic fucking raider character, just because your party synced all the way down to fucking 60. I don't know why. I just think that's going to be so fucking funny the first time that happens.
Replay feature that will let you replay most quests once per day while helping a friend. Doing so will give you the chance of a gear loot box that is scaled for your level.
Loot box.
They
Wow.
then have also relaxed the restrictions for dungeons in terms of levels, and that does allow higher level players to scale down to and complete lower level dungeons, which is a pretty nifty feature.
Yeah,
now, all of this makes a lot of sense because of the reintroduction of Recruit a Friend, one that is updated to be, well, I mean, more rewarding with like more interesting stuff, more exclusive rewards, and it's something that
more profitable.
It's fairly transparent. While it will be fine for many of the people who will just use Recruit a Friend when they're having a new friend play the game, they have done a few things like making it so that you instantly get the rewards upon game time being purchased. So it is totally catered to impulse purchasers. Plus, loads of people have resubbed already for Classic. So
everything
I think a lot of people are going to be making dummy accounts,
getting stupid people to give you money.
Now, I've covered this before.
That's what it's all
There's
about.
not much else to say. It's Blizz making more money. That's how it goes. Now, that's the main features, but what about the rest? Honestly, going through the patch notes, there's not a great deal. We've got the Black Market Auction House having new enchantments, transmog gear, and mounts. Then the Black Market Auction House containers now actually creating the item before they're viewed. I wonder if that's Blizzard trying to fix an exploit or something. So there's that.
I don't know what the exploit that is. I wish I did.
Requirements have been removed up to the Fall of Zuldazar, and you no longer need a Nazjatar companion at level 3 in order to clear the Bane quest. So it's pretty obvious that Blizzard just want you to be able to play the entire war campaign on a fresh character from start to end once this patch comes out. Then bar bug fixes, that's basically it, but we'll just have to see if there are any undocumented changes that do make it in. Okay, so with all that covered, let's talk about the 8.3 cancellation speculation, something that I think mostly exists because back in Warlords of Draenor, they did cancel 6.3 in order to basically just cut their losses from that expansion and move on to Legion.
Which was a good idea, by the way.
Finishes the story, it certainly would make it possible. So here's why. It is actually possible to make this add up. You see, patch 8.2 was, in terms of its relative release date, closer to the timing of patch 7.3, which was Legion's final patch. Plus, I think that 8.2 is a bit more replayable than 7.3, and 8.2.5 is larger than anything that came after 7.3. Now, if Blizzard abandoned BFA and went for an early August 2020 release date for 9.0, then it would pretty much be just like the 7.3.5 to Legion gap in terms of...
I don't know if they should cancel BFA. I don't think they should cancel BFA and just move past the expansion. I think they should finish off and like iterate on the systems and make the systems actually good so they can take them forward into the next expansion. Because right now, I mean, they've made Azeroth better. They've made some of the other gearing better. And I think they should focus on making this better before they just scrap everything and try something completely different. It's a bad idea, in my opinion, for them to just completely reset everything every other 2 weeks. Or not 2 weeks, 2 years. That's a huge mistake, in my opinion. I think like Path of Exile, the way they do it, and they have the content build on each other, I like that a lot more. I think that is 1,000 fucking times better.
The release dates. It would be far from ideal, but you could see the logic given the poor reception of BFA and how BFA already is a few months behind schedule. So this plan is something they could do if they still wanted to quite easily hit their summer 2020 expansion release date, because here's the thing, doing patch 8.3 this January and then having to simultaneously do the 9.0 beta for an August expansion release date, I mean, that would be a lot of work. I kind of find that hard to... I just find it hard to see them doing that. But of course, they totally could do that. Who knows? Maybe they've hired more devs. Anyway, this would basically mean, though, that BlizzCon would be a regular expansion announcement. So is that timeline possible? Yes, it is. But it's equally possible that we'll see 8.2.5 drop early October, and then we'll see Ian and Jeremy do a live stream in maybe mid to late October.
They're obviously going to fucking do this. They're obviously going to bring it out before BlizzCon. That way they can have BlizzCon hype up the end of BFA and then announce the new expansion after that. That's what's going to happen. And they need to have it come out beforehand, and they need to have the big plot, the plot device or the plot event happen before BlizzCon, because they don't want to have what happened with Legion and like going into BFA happen, right? Where BFA gets announced and nobody even knows what happens at the end of Legion.
That announces patch 8.3 just ahead of BlizzCon. This would then allow them to have BlizzCon focus on the next expansion, as is normal.
I can't wait to play D4,
would
man.
Release next January,
I cannot wait
and then
to play
we'd maybe
D4.
see a September release date, maybe in October.
I'm gonna be honest, like, whenever D4 comes out, I'm gonna go hard on that game. Like, I'm gonna go really fucking hard at the game. They're not gonna do Diablo Immortal 2, right? I mean, like they're gonna announce Diablo 4 at this BlizzCon, right? I mean, you really think they're not gonna do it? They're obviously going to announce Diablo 4. Okay, like I'd like to try it out and at least see how the game is. I'll probably grind that game for a while. I don't know how long I will, but I could really see myself enjoying it a lot. Like I played the original Diablo 3 all day, every day.
Release date for the next expansion, but I suppose the closer they get to that end of year release window, the more competition they will face. Now, it's just about I mean, how much do they think that World of Warcraft even, faces competition from those other titles? Now, given how WoW does rely heavily on expansion launch spikes, it is true that competing with other AAAs might be tricky there for them. Anyway, point is,
they don't want to do that. Just make the game good, and then people won't quit. Like, the problem is not getting people to play, because you just bring out a new expansion, they all start playing again. The problem is making sure they don't quit. Don't let them quit the game. Like, figure out a way to motivate them to not to want to ruin their life. Don't let them fucking quit.
They may have to push the release date back a little bit in order to facilitate the beta testing period if 8.3 was going to be January. But even if they did do that, I think we'd probably be in for a shorter kind of final patch to next expansion gap. I've got to imagine that Blizzard pretty quickly last year thought, oh dear, we have massively messed this up, and probably scrambled to get some sort of workable plan. So, I mean, I do have a feeling that the worst days are actually behind us here, but it certainly is an odd situation. It is unfortunate that it does pretty much all stem from the fact that BFA was not really that well received and did launch with so many fundamental issues. Yes. I guess it's all just about trying to work out, why did BFA have those issues when Legion was received so well?
And because people gave feedback on, well, for one, here's why, is because Blizzard didn't listen to any of the feedback that players gave about the systems. People fucking hated everything about Azeroth, and Blizzard dragged their feet for the entire fucking beta process, the entire alpha process, and they basically time-gated expansion features for 8 months. Just now we're getting the Heart of Azeroth in the way that it should have been on release. Just now we're getting, the Azeroth gear in the way that it should have been on release. All of these things should have happened at the very fucking beginning, and players wanted them. And Blizzard didn't even say yeah, we're working on it or anything like that. They didn't even say that. They were like, hey, this is the way it's going to be. They released the expansion in a way that nobody wanted. Legion, they spent more time on it because they gave up on WoD halfway through, so they had more time to work on the expansion than they naturally would. And Legion was only really well received, in my opinion. I think if Legion came after Mists of Pandaria, people would have thought Legion sucked. The reason why people thought Legion was so great is because it came after WoD. It's as I said, if it's two fucking ugly girls and one hot girl, you're going to see the hot girl and you're like, oh my god, she's fucking amazing. But really, she's a 6 and the other girls are 3s. It's because BFA and WoD sucked, and Legion looks better than it comparatively would. That's why. That is fucking why. And I'm sorry to say, no, really, that's why it is. They're going to see Legion, they're like, wow, it's better than what we had, and it's better than what we have, so you know what? It's great. Legion had some great things with it, but don't fucking tell me that it was this amazing, perfect expansion. It had 1,000 things wrong with it, too. And Legion had a million things wrong with it at the beginning, too. Remember the Legendaries? Those were terrible, right? BFA sucked because Blizzard did not listen to the players. Didn't listen to players at all. Right? And they didn't even listen to, Blizzard, if players say we want B, Blizzard does not have to do B. But they have to do what players mean whenever they say B. Blizzard didn't do that. Blizzard did. They had no idea. They fucked up.
And when they got such clear feedback throughout the beta testing process,
yeah,
what made them decide to just, launch with the systems that they clearly knew were pretty flawed? Or maybe was it just a lot of hubris and they did not know that those features would be received as poorly as they were? Certainly is an odd situation, but finally, let's just round this off with a little bit of talk about layering. So basically, right, there was a pretty massive exploit.
Here we go.
I mean, in some ways, it does fundamentally ruin aspects of Classic with layering, where essentially you could exploit layering you could go in, you could kill Ragnaros, then you could basically work out swapping to another layer and kill Ragnaros again. And that would mean that you could kill raid bosses twice in a lockout. You could use this in dungeons to just farm the same boss again and again. I think the people doing that, I mean, it's such a clear exploit. Blizzard have released their justification for why they are issuing bans for this. I think those bans are absolutely right.
Absolutely right.
I mean, Classic is a game
absolutely right.
Just the integrity, right, is so important. And if you have the loot economy being broken by a small number of people, that really does break the integrity and the progression curve of Classic. So overall, it's very unfortunate that that happened. It's quite wild that Blizzard did not catch this problem in their testing. That's just a bit crazy to me, but I am glad that Blizzard are going hard on this.
Well, that's because they didn't do any testing.
Because
that's
I mean,
why.
if somebody is exploiting that layering, they obviously know that's in.
They did a lot of advertising. They were like, wow, let's give every streamer beta. And that's great. I think that's smart to give every streamer beta. That's a really good idea. But here's the problem, is you have to give testers beta too. They should have invited all the streamers. They should have invited Pokimane. They should have had Pokimane play Classic WoW for a day or two. Maybe a few of our fans have never seen it before and they'll try it out. You know, that's a great idea. But the issue is you also want to invite Bill. Bill, the beta tester, who's been reporting bugs ever since the Wrath of the Lich King beta. You know, like, come on.
Entirely against what Classic is supposed to be.
Yes.
And it clearly is an exploit because it's clearly not supposed to work that way. So that's basically my thoughts on that. I think unfortunate that it happened. I'm a bit surprised that Blizzard actually just allowed that to happen.
I'm not.
That it wasn't caught in testing, but I'm glad that Blizzard are coming down pretty much like a ton of bricks on them. I think that's the right call. And with all that said, that is it for today's rather long episode of the news. We certainly did cover a whole load of topics. If you'd like to support our team, then you can check out the Patreon, $25 a month, shipping included. You've got a bunch of really cool stuff.
It's a tier 3 sub.
I suppose if you'd like to be a member of that team, and I mean, especially if you're in Northern Ireland, do check out our job posting down below for a video editor. With that, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time.
It's really impressive that Bellular has done so much with what he has here. Really is, regardless of anything else. That is definitely impressive.